Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're plunging into a really intense piece of scripture. We're looking at the book of Job, specifically chapter 23.
Right. This is Job speaking directly, deep in his suffering. He's trying to make sense of it all, trying to connect with God.
Yeah, you really feel the weight of it from the start. He says his complaint is bitter, he's groaning.
Under God's heavy hand, as he puts it. But then he pivots, doesn't he, to this intense desire.
A desire to find God, not just emotionally, but physically, it seems.
Exactly. He says, oh, that I knew where I might find him. Like he wants an address, wants to actually go to God's dwelling.
And why? Why this need for a physical location, do you think?
Well, he tells us he wants to state his case before him. He wants to fill his mouth with arguments.
It sounds almost like he wants a court hearing.
It really does. It's legal language.
Mhm.
He believes he's upright, innocent, and if he could just have that face-to-face, that hearing.
He could present his evidence.
Yes, and he seems convinced God would listen, would respond, and he'd be delivered forever from his judge. He has this profound confidence in his own case.
If only he could get there. But that's the problem, isn't it?
That's the immediate, agonizing problem.
Yeah.
He can't find God anywhere.
He searches east, west, north, south.
Looks forward, backward, left, right. But God is invisible, hidden, utterly elusive.
Imagine that feeling. Your vindication, your answers depend on this meeting, and the other party is just gone.
It's incredibly frustrating. More than frustrating, it's part of the torment.
Yeah.
Yet, right in the middle of that searching and not finding.
There's a turn, a really significant one.
He says, despite not seeing God, but he knows the way that I take.
Ah, yes, that line. Even though I can't find him, he knows me. He sees my path.
And a huge statement of faith amidst the darkness. And then comes that famous image.
When he has tested me, I shall come out as gold.
Right, so this suffering, this horror, it's not meaningless destruction in this view. It's a test, a refining process.
Like fire purifying gold. He's holding on to this idea that there's a purpose, even if he can't see it or understand it yet.
Exactly. And he immediately backs this up by sort of presenting his credentials, his past faithfulness.
He says he's followed God's steps closely, kept his way.
Hasn't turned aside, hasn't departed from God's commands. He even says he's treasured God's words more than his necessary food.
He's basically saying, look at my life. This proves I'm the gold, not the dross. This must be a test, not a punishment.
It's his defense, offered even in God's felt absence. He's building his case even without the judge present, perhaps.
So you have this tension, the hidden God, the desperate search, and this underlying trust in God's knowledge and refining purpose. But then
Then the tone shifts again, sharply.
towards fear, real terror, actually.
Yes, he acknowledges God's absolute power.
Yeah.
He's unchangeable, and who can turn him back? What he desires, that he does.
God stands alone, does whatever he pleases, unstoppable, sovereign.
And when you feel, as Job does, that God is carrying out a specific decree against you, well, that kind of power isn't comforting anymore.
Now it's terrifying. He says it plainly. Therefore, I am terrified at his presence. When I consider, I am in dread of him.
The Almighty, the one he hopes is refining him like gold, is the very one making his heart faint, terrifying him.
It's such a raw, honest portrayal of that paradox. Trusting God's knowledge while being scared stiff of God's power, especially when it feels aimed at you.
Absolutely. The hiddenness, the perceived purpose, the overwhelming power, the resulting fear, it's all swirling together.
But he doesn't end the chapter in despair exactly. There's that final line.
Yet I am not silenced by the darkness.
Despite the thick darkness covering his face, despite the terror, he's not silenced. There's a kind of endurance. Defiance, maybe.
Perhaps a refusal to just be extinguished by it all. And this whole chapter, the struggle, it really resonates, doesn't it?
It feels incredibly relevant. I mean, who hasn't wrestled with wanting answers in hard times?
Or felt like you're crying out and no one's hearing, or you can't find that connection you need.
Right. That tension between trusting there's some bigger plan and just being plain scared by how things seem to be playing out.
Job 23 captures that so intensely. The person suffering, demanding that hearing with God.
Finding God completely elusive, yet somehow still holding on to trust in God's knowledge, hoping for that gold outcome.
While simultaneously being terrified by the sheer uncontrollable power of the one he's trying to trust. It's incredibly complex.
It really is a raw snapshot of faith meeting suffering head on.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about maybe. What does it truly mean to come forth as gold after a test like this?
Especially when the pest feels so overwhelming, so arbitrary, and God seems so distant, even frightening.
Is Job stating a universal truth here that suffering always refines? Or is he perhaps voicing a desperate hope, clinging to a theological framework to survive the confusion and terror?
Something to definitely reflect on.